Hey, what's going on, everybody? Not your average Josh back here for another video, and it is my first review of this new year 2025, the first movie I've seen here in the first couple of days of January, and it's a movie that I was pretty unfamiliar with, didn't know it was even coming out, and it had all the makings of an uh-oh film, the first horror movie of the year. Usually not very good track record with horror movies in pretty much every month of January. And it is a movie that is called The Damned, a smaller film that I literally just found out about a day or two ago. And I thought, why not go ahead and check this out? So definitely want to get my thoughts on this. But before I get into this review of this film, I do want to say, as I said at the beginning of all my videos, I do appreciate any support that I get for this channel. Just a smaller channel, still growing, and just doing this because I love talking about movies and TV shows. It's my hobby and passion. I just love talking about all this stuff. So if you want to support this channel any further, you can hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and also leave a comment down below. And also you can follow me on any of my social media platforms. It should be on this screen right now. But let's go ahead and get into this film, The Damned. And if you are unaware, like most people seem to be, this is directed by Thordur Paulson, or Paulson, I'm not sure how you pronounce that last name there. And it is also written by Thordur Paulson as well, and along with Jamie Hannigan. Two people I am pretty unaware of, wasn't familiar with this director much at all. And also, if you do not know the premise of this movie, it is about a 19th century widow who has to make an impossible choice when, during an especially cruel winter, a foreign ship sinks off the coast of her Icelandic fishing village. This was a movie that I knew very little about. I knew it was a horror movie, had some supernatural elements with it, and that it seemed to be in an isolated location. So I was just hoping this movie was going to be good, not expecting too much from it. And I will say I do have mixed feelings on a few aspects with this movie, but overall I did enjoy my time with this. I think first off, the main actress here, Odessa Young as Eva, she's really good. I don't think I've seen her in anything else that I can think of, but she is the lead of this movie. As I mentioned in the description, she owns this fishing village, this house she has where people will come in during different seasons and fish for a while for work for their families, and then go back and sail back to wherever they're from and be with their families again. And it's really this very isolated, desolate location in Iceland, and winter is about to start when this movie is beginning, and you get a lot of the events unfold here. But I just thought a lot of this movie is definitely the main focus. Of course, she is the main character here, Odessa Young, and she does a really good job with just subtle acting in this movie. Some of the looks she gives when there's this supernatural elements going on. I don't want to give too much away here if you haven't seen it or don't know anything about it. But whenever this supernatural stuff is going on, a lot of times it's at nighttime in her house that she is in, and you'll just get these subtle little moments that just add to the tension so well, and you're just like in fear of what is about to happen. And that also, with the technical aspects of this movie, lend to that as well. But she just does such a good job in this movie. You just really rooting for her. She just seems like a woman that is a very strong character. The movie starts out, this isn't a spoiler, but she lost her husband some years before this movie takes place. And so she's just very natural, strong character. This movie takes place also, as I mentioned, in the 19th century. And I really like how they wrote her character to be just so naturally strong, and you didn't really get any of those kind of cliche tropes that you'll get in movies, any period piece with women, and how men just treat them poorly a lot of times. I liked in this movie, the men that were around her knew how strong she was as a person, not just a woman. And the fact that she lost her husband, but she's still running this fishing village in these really just horrible climate at times where it's freezing temperatures and it's very hard to get food. A lot of times you really just have to try and hope that you'll get fish from the water where they're very near in this. She really pulls it off, Odessa Young, as being this strong character, and you really believe every bit of why these men have this just natural respect towards her. No one's really mistreating her throughout this movie, even though it does take place, as I mentioned, in the 1800s. And I just really like that little aspect of it. But yeah, she just did a really good job in this movie, and she is really the main anchor we're following throughout this, and the main person that we feel like will probably at least make it out if no one else does, because this is a horror movie and shit does go down. Also, it was really cool in here to see Joe Cole as Daniel. If you do not know, I really am familiar with him from Peaky Blinders. This is the main thing I've seen from him outside of that. And a little side note, I do need to finish Peaky Blinders because I believe that movie's coming out this year, last I heard, or maybe it's the year after this one. I've got to about I think I had like 2 seasons left on that show. I was really enjoying it so much. Of course, Cillian Murphy is so great in it, but I really also love Joe Cole in that show, and he plays this character Daniel in this. And I thought he was really good in here. Everyone, the acting across the board is really well done here. He was like one of the main side characters in this movie that gets the most screen time besides our main girl here, Odessa Young. And you also get in here Rory McCann, who plays Ragnar. If you do not know who he is, of course, from his main fame is Game of Thrones, playing the Hound. I loved him in that show. Game of Thrones, one of my favorite shows of all time, even though the 8th season didn't quite stick the landing as much as it could have. That might still be my favorite show ever. And he was one of my favorite characters on there. Just so enjoyable. Of course, the relationship he had with Arya Stark in that show, his character, the Hound. It was just cool to see him in something else. I know he was also in the Jumanji movie, at least one of them, the newer movies that came out, and he was really enjoyable in that. But seeing him here as this leader of this group, along with this being Odessa Young, her character, Eva, this is her place that everyone's at, but he is really kind of the main leader of the group of men in this movie and trying to help everyone survive. And it was just really nice to see him in here. Not really familiar with a lot of the other actors here, but it's not really that big of a cast. As I mentioned, it's this really isolated story of this winter where they're trying to really survive. And besides the acting, I think everything in this movie, as far as the technical aspects of it, was really well done. I think the cinematography, the way this movie builds tension and atmosphere, and you really just feel the cold of the nature that they're surrounding them here, and you really just feel isolated and like hopeless at times, and the starvation that the characters are feeling. It really just is conveyed so much just off the screen with the direction here, and then the writing of the characters from scene to scene, and the way they're able to build tension from scene to scene. It's just so palpable at times when a lot of the supernatural elements in this movie take place at nighttime. And it's just like, there were so many times I was just clenching my theater chair because it does get very creepy in here. And with the effects they use of these, I don't want to spoil anything, but these ghostly like images at times, it's very just so feels real. Like this presence is here in the room with these people. There's several scenes throughout this movie that was just like high tension with the way it was shot. The sound design and the score really amplified that as well. I thought they were very deliberate in the way they used the score in this movie. At times it's just very subtle and not really apparent or even there at all. And then when it needs to be, it is just adding to this like what is going to happen here in this scene. Like, is this about to get very horrifying, or is it just going to be another moment that just kind of passes? And that is what a lot of this movie is. And I think that is going to be the main part of the movie where it's going to make it or break it for you if you like or do not like this movie. There is a very repetitive nature to what ends up happening with this movie, where this supernatural element keeps popping up in a very similar way. And by the time there's about 15 minutes left in this movie, you're kind of like, okay, this is starting to feel a little repetitive. At least I thought so. It never took me out of the movie completely, but once we were getting to near the end, I was like, okay, this is kind of the same formula now we're going with. And it was still very tense most of the time, but it was starting to feel like it was just very noticeable. And one thing, though, that is good about all that is the runtime for this movie is about an hour and a half. And so I think that was perfect for what this movie is. I think you go any longer than that, it would have started to drag just a bit. And I think the overall concept of this movie is just very interesting. I am very mixed at where this movie leaves off at. They very much leave the ending here up for the audience's interpretation of what is actually going on. And I appreciated this movie for that, especially with what it was trying to do. But I do think it could have at least maybe started to hint down a couple paths for at least for there to be a little bit more clear of what a possible solution or answer could be. I didn't necessarily need them to explain everything to me. I really like that about this movie, that it doesn't spoon feed you the info or what is actually going on. I think that really works with the mystery of this movie and the kind of the mystique of whatever is going on here. And there's definitely a big comparison here with The Thing, with this film. Of course, being in a place, a snowy climate, and then also this isolation. And these characters in this movie start to really turn on each other. The paranoia is almost the main villain at certain points in this movie where you don't quite know what's going on. And there's just weird stuff happening. And it's very much like The Thing in that way where you don't know who to trust, like what is actually going on here. And I really enjoyed the little parallels there. I got to imagine the director had some type of inspiration, influence with The Thing here. John Carpenter's The Thing is definitely one of my favorite movies of all time. That's really where my main mixed feelings with this movie lie at. I'm just really torn. They have a reveal at the end of this movie that answers certain questions about stuff that happened throughout the beginning and middle of this movie, but it also doesn't really answer, for me personally, a lot of the more interesting questions that I already had, and it just leaves more doors wide open. And actually, there's even more doors now that you could go and open up, and it feels like I just wanted a little bit more of a path to potentially go down. And so I'm really mixed on it though, because I think for the story they're telling, I think it does work to leave it in a more ambiguous and up for interpretation type of way. But I just think they could have went just a little further. And when they do have this reveal here, there's really just about a couple minutes left in the movie, and then it just abruptly ends. And it fits for what they're going for, but also it just feels like, man, I would have liked a couple more minutes to let it breathe. But also, I'm mixed on it because I really do enjoy the fact that once this movie was over, I was just thinking about this movie all day long as I was at work and leading up to doing this review. It's very thought provoking, and a lot of the themes they're exploring. And one of the key elements that kicks off the supernatural elements that start to occur in this is this shipwreck. And this is not going to be too much of a spoiler, but it happens near the beginning of the movie. There's this shipwreck that happens not too far off from the shore, and our main group of people here with Odessa Young and everyone, they're already close to starving. They're trying to fish every day, just get what food they can, and they have to make the decision: do we go save these people, or do we stay back and just basically let them die potentially? But does it make sense to go out and try and save them? We already don't have enough food here. They could end up sinking our ship. We have smaller boats over here. There's just a lot of logical reasons why you just wouldn't potentially go out and save them. And so there's this moral question that happens and a decision that has to be made. And with that, you get these supernatural elements start to pop up. And so there's this theme of consequences, and should you do the morally right thing no matter what, even if you could end up endangering yourself. There's a lot of themes they go into in here with that, and of course the isolation, the paranoia. There's a lot of cool elements with this movie that I really appreciate, and I did enjoy myself overall throughout this movie for the most part. But with there being still a lot of these unanswered questions, and there's elements throughout the movie that happen where even though they give you this reveal at the end of the movie, it just felt like there's still a couple other moments throughout this movie with key character moments that it still doesn't quite make sense, like why it happened. Why does the character act this way at this certain point in the movie? And so, again, I'm just really kind of mixed overall, but I did like this movie more than I didn't. I did enjoy myself so overall. I think it's definitely just going to be interesting for me to have a rewatch with this movie to really see how I feel about it now that I know what the reveal is, and see if that does change anything else that happened in the movie beforehand. Because right now with the reveal, I'm just kind of like, there's still so many unanswered questions, and it does drag the movie down a little bit from how positive I could feel on it. So I don't know. That's really my main thoughts on it. I don't want to go too much further into it. I probably maybe already given away a little bit too much about this movie if you didn't know anything about it. But I would go check it out. If you're a horror fan at all, this is not a typical January film. This is definitely a good one. Technically well made on a lot of aspects. As I mentioned, the sound design, sound effects, the score, the cinematography, the direction overall. The way it builds tension, it reminded me of low-key like Nosferatu, I will say. And of course in that movie with a lot of the snowfall and everything, there's going to be comparisons from that as well. But I thought just the way it built tension, it wasn't too far off from Nosferatu, I will say. Like, I was like very, very tense through several scenes in this movie, and it just did a really good job at capturing that. I do really enjoy how the movie's about an hour and a half long. I think with the pacing of this, the fact that in the last 15 minutes, as I mentioned, you start to feel the repetitive nature of what's going on. It's like, okay, nighttime is here again. There's going to be another supernatural incident of some kind, and then hopefully they'll survive, and then it'll be daytime again. It started to feel a little bit like that. But by the time it was starting to feel that way, you're getting towards the end of the movie, and then they have the reveal. So I do think it was a very appropriate runtime. And yeah, I think it's a really cool film. I would be very interested to see more from this director, not knowing much about him, as I said, at all. I'm going to give The Damned a 7 out of 10. Honestly, this movie wouldn't even be as high if just all the technical aspects weren't so damn good. I think I'm just so mixed on it right now. I was toying with putting it in about the 5 to 6 range, but it is definitely a movie where my opinion will be more solidified with another rewatch. And I definitely would be down to do that at some point because still enjoy myself overall, as I mentioned, and obviously with my rating. So yeah, what do you guys think? Have you heard about this movie at all? Maybe you've already gone to see it. Do you care about seeing it at all? What do you think? What are your thoughts on horror movies, horror January movies? Has there been any key gems over the past few years that you've seen that I'm not aware of? Leave your thoughts down below, and also hit the subscribe button. Also leave a like if you want to support this channel any further. And as I mentioned at the beginning, you can follow me on any of my social media platforms that should be on this screen somewhere right now. But that is it for now. Yeah, this was a surprise movie. Wasn't even planning on reviewing this or even going to see it. Didn't know anything about it till a couple of days ago. So I got plenty more movies I'm going to go see. I do appreciate anyone who's watching this and supporting this channel. I will talk to you guys later.